Schweinepriester as the Romans and Borg as the Gauls. Now this seems to be a low food generation. We don't see anything here for a Schweinepriester, and you should expect similar to Borg. Wood lines are quite decent. Borg is starting standard with 6 women, and Schweinepriester is starting with 2 cav. He will do a very aggressive push. Now the objective when you're going for 2 spear cav is to run out your chicken as fast as possible and send your cavalry directly to deny the opponent's berries. Now the problem for Schweinepriester is that he's going for the farmstead. Usually when you do this approach, you don't want to start the farmstead as soon as possible, because you want to save for the house. And this should impact him quite soon. We're going for 2 skirmishers after the first women. I think it would be better to have 2 spearmen, especially since he knows the opponent is Romans. So for example, you put these 2 spearmen to get these woods, and if the spear cavalry comes, then you can send them to defend here. Now, for example, as I was mentioning, Schweinepriester has 90 food, and since he went for the farmstead first, now he will have to wait a little bit before he's even capable of getting the wood to build the house. So usually on this approach, you go without the farmstead first. Now, will Borg be able to defend quite effectively here? I'm not sure about that. I would have liked to see more 2 spearmen instead of 2 skirmishers first. Now his barriers are going to be quite exposed. Now Schweinepriester, when you go for spear cav, instead of going around, you can go strictly to the barriers or the CC. You don't waste any time, because your singular mission when going with spear cav is actually to deny the berries. This is the most damage that you can do to opponent. So while you're going around here, you're taking damage from the CC, even if they are tanky. And it gets a single kill. Okay, now you go back and you just scout to see if the opponent has sent units to the berries, and then come back again and continually deny the berries. So that's what you usually do when you go for the cav start. See if the opponent is making spearmen. If they don't have spearmen, you can still harass quite effectively. So just stay around and retreat the more damaged ones. Keep harassing the berries as much as possible. For example, you can go in like this. You can just send the healthy one. And deny the berries as much as possible. Yeah, this was a good house because you can have less time spent going around from the CC when defending. Now, what Borg has for him is that he went for a lot of infantry so far. Now, this would be good for him if he goes for a push later on. He's only in the same situation in terms of economy to Schweinepriester because Schweinepriester had a bad... Well, the investment with the cavalry is quite a lot. Now, fortunately for Schweinepriester, he does not have any hand nearby his CC, so he should be able to... he will have to use his cavalry to get more trades, because so far it's not paying off for him. On the other hand, if Borg does not capitalize on the amount of infantry he made at the moment, like for example going for a phase 2 push or something like that, Schweinepriester can get back on economy quite soon. But I would expect Borg, for the infantry size that we are seeing here, to go for a push quite soon. Maybe around 50 to more population. Usually when Borg does that, he also phases 2 to get the extra health. So for example, if I'm not mistaken, it's 10% health when you phase up, so the units get a little bit better. I think it's more actually, I think it's 20% because skirmishers go from 50 to 60 health. Going for this outpost here, it's an investment. It might be worth it just to be sure that the where are the cavalry from Schweinepriester, but it should be fine. Now from Schweinepriester here, I think he's doing a good job with his economy, going for a barracks now. This is good because he needs infantry as soon as possible. But the problem is that he's not using the cavalry at the moment, he's not seeing what Borg is doing. So he's unprepared for any attacks if Borg decides to do that. Fortunately for him, Borg is still not pushing out. And also Borg is having a few issues with food. Okay, he's living out with the cavalry now. He still can do quite a bit of damage inside the food economy from Schweinepriester or from Borg. I mean, even if he does not get any single kill, he still can delay quite considerably Borg's food income. And if I'm not mistaken, 3 spear cav one shot a woman. So if you can get in range of a woman with the 3 spear cav, that's good as well. Okay, time to retrieve this cavalry. He can still use these 2 healthy ones, just maybe to get a single kill on one of the women that have lower health. But it seems that Borg has none. Well, anyway, I'm not sure why Borg went for so much infantry at the start if he's not pushing with them, because otherwise his echo will be much worse than Schweinepriester that went a lot of women at the start. So this is a bit dangerous for Borg. I'm not sure he's in a good position right now. I mean, I think at the current moment Schweinepriester should be able to defend quite decently with this amount of units. So for example, if Schweinepriester knows ahead of time that a push is incoming, he can just make a sentry tower here, garrison units inside the barracks if needed, and just keep going ahead. So I think I'm in favor of Schweinepriester's position at the moment. And Schweinepriester was able to do a little bit of damage, indirect damage on the economy as well. So I like Schweinepriester's position at the moment. Now, what could be an issue for Schweinepriester is that since Borg is starting to boom with women right now, he'll have the echo machine from Gauls working for him. So Gauls can boom quite well. And they can boom faster than Romans. So for example, right now the populations are getting even, but I expect Borg to jump ahead quite soon. And Schweinepriester with a little bit of imbalance with regard from wood to food. Going for the early storehouse. Usually you can delay a little bit. If you can just, for example, assign units to the other woods that are not being used nearby, you can delay a little bit of the storehouse so you can have a little bit more food. You don't need to be 100% efficient all the time, if you can have a better resource balance. It's going for the stone quite early, which is good if you want to have an additional barracks, and that's what he's going for here. So he's intending to spam units. With 6 farms, he should be able to. He should be able to afford around 100 population, 1 or 2 additional farms to keep on booming. Now these towers here, they are for the fast P2 from Borg. So for example, he goes to P2 and just upgrade those at the same time. And they provide some indirect defense against the Spear Cavalry if it comes. It's not enough because the Spear Cavalry are very tanky, but it helps a little bit. I mean, it's a 200 wood investment. I'm not sure it's worth at this stage, but that's what he's going for. I don't think he's trolling.
EST? EST?
Now, we see from Schweinepriester a lot of resources floating. He could be in a better situation right now. He's not building houses. He spent a lot of time microing that single unit there. I mean, it's good to scout, but you need to pay attention to your economy. So, for example, as I was mentioning, he has 6 fields, and that should not be enough for more than 100 population. So, for example, he could afford 1 or 2 more fields and start sending men to get wood here, just to be sure that the women farming here are safe, as well as prioritizing metal from here. Also, another thing that he should be doing, since he has a lot of wood, is instead of sending workers to wood, send workers to metal a little bit earlier. Probably this one would be safe too if he has wood from here, because then, for example, he has a lot of wood right now and he could already be able to afford the wood upgrade and the farming upgrade at the same time. Now he's going for the additional farms. Okay, that's fine. But he had a lot of time to make houses and didn't do them. And also he does not have enough metal right now to afford the farming upgrade. Assuming that he is microing a lot and is not paying attention to his economy. So for example, if you have a lot of wood like this, there are some things that you can do. If you assume that you are in a bad position in terms of infantry, is go for a push, which is not the case in this game. But it could be done, since you don't need a lot of men in the wood at the moment. Something you can do is redirect workers to metal, make sure that you have enough metal, and go for the upgrades. So for example, go for the farming upgrade, which takes a little bit of wood as well. You can also assign like 2 women, 2, 3, or even 4 women to build the market, since you don't need it straight away, but you already spend the wood and efficiently builds that building. He should also be, well, he has 8 fields. I think it's good enough for now, but he really should be taking metal. And this is a big problem for him. Take metal, also invest in the storehouses for efficiency. So for example, you have storehouse here, storehouse here, and storehouse here. You have a 200 wood investment that you can take from here, but also you increase the efficiency of mining metal and stone. Fortunately for Schweinepriester, Borg is not booming as fast as was expecting, even though he's floating even though Schweinepriester is floating a lot of resources. He's catching up quite quickly. But as we can see here, as I said, goals they boom quite fast. So any mistake that you make, you can't afford really to make mistakes when booming against goals. You really need to be on point on that, because they take off so quickly. Okay, he's not idling the barracks, that's good. I would like to see the storehouse for efficiency, making sure your minerals are saturated. So for example, something you can do is, if you don't want to individually check the minerals each time to know how many workers there are and then assigning those, you can just, for example, click on the barracks, right click on a resource, and then shift click to the other resource. So for example, if this resource is full, which it is, then the units, instead of going here, are going directly to here. But he's saturating the metal, it's good. Also something you can do, well, he's using a lot of his resources efficiently, so that's fine. Going for the outpost to check out what Borg is doing. Borg sees that this location is taken. He also has 2 outposts. So yeah, pretty interesting that both players are going for the outpost for vision. But Borg has a considerable lead at the moment. Now, Schweinepriester is going for the P3 and he should be ahead from Borg for a while. Borg should be able to start P3 right now. Yes, he does it. I'm not sure why, but lately Borg is really not balancing well his minerals, so he's taking a lot of metal when he's not using. After you go to P3, unless you're going for the upgrades really fast, which is not the case when you're going 1v1, you are usually just spamming units a lot. You don't need the metal fully saturated after you start P3. Okay, if you are housed like this, you can also go for the housing upgrade, especially when you have so many resources. And as we see, Schweinepriester is not paying too much attention for that. But he finishes P3 and goes directly for the economic upgrades, which is quite good. At the same time, Borg goes for the P3 wood upgrade. Starts a few more barracks to spawn a little bit more, but I was mentioning he has a lot of metal that is not necessary, so unless you go straight for the upgrades, the blacksmith upgrades, you don't need all your workers saturated on the metal mine. You can just, for example, have 15 like that and then get them to wood, which is more important for the upgrades themselves as well. You can spam more units and etc. Borg not going for the food upgrade. He does not have enough wood for the moment. Okay, this is a good position from Schweinepriester. It does not defend the CC a lot from this side or this side, but it is good enough to be offensive as well as having some defensive capability, and is very strong with the towers. The only problem is that these locations here, they are quite exposed. So for example, I would like to see maybe some walls surrounding these parts here. Now, Schweinepriester does the same mistake as Borg. He still has the metal saturated, and so he has a lot of imbalance between metal and other resources. He even has more metal here on this location. So you don't need so much metal after you P3, unless you are going for the military upgrades. Wood is a resource that has more priority. Now, I was expecting Schweinepriester to make a CC here. It seems that instead he's probably going for a military camp. That is fine, but if your units are idle, that's not good. You should have a plan before you assign your units so that they are not idle. So these are 20 units that are not gathering wood, which is quite an important resource for him at the moment. Okay, and he goes for the entrenched military camp at this location. But Borg has the vision at the moment, and we will see these workers passing by. So it will reveal Schweinepriester's position. Now, interestingly, Borg is going for another fortress on this location. I'm not really sure about this decision, and Schweinepriester will be able to deny it if he wants to. For some reason, he's not focusing the catapults to the constructing fort. Maybe Borg will be able to finish it. Yeah, he will be able to finish it. I'm not sure about this. Now, interestingly, from Borg, he is using the extra metal that he had to make fanatics. It's not a bad decision. It's a little bit wasteful, but since Borg has so much population, he's fine with that. He's almost maxed out. And Borg denies this military camp from Schweinepriester. Now Schweinepriester has only 8 fields. That is not good when you're in this position, but since he's not even taking the wood itself, yeah. For example, he has still a lot of the workers on the metal mines, which is a resource that you don't really need at the moment. You just need the wood. Now, what could Schweinepriester do in his current position? Well, first, he should take off units from metal and start getting the wood. I see that he is also making additional fields, which is good. Currently, he has 3 barracks, which is not enough for the current state of the game. He should have more barracks, and he has the stone to afford so. Also, maybe, I don't know, a fort, a defensive fort in this location here, or close to the CC, like deleting a farm and making a fort nearby, because currently he's quite exposed from an incursion for Borg on this side here. Now, I like what I see here in terms of these walls. So, for example, with these walls here, he can just make catapults, garrison them, park them here, and inflict damage to both of these forts. Now, Borg finishes another CC up here, and this is good for map control. What Borg could do was deny this wood. With his current map control, deny this wood as well. But Borg is playing quite passively on this game. I'm not sure what's the reason for that. He even has a third fort coming up. And he has a lot of garrison units which are not doing much for him at the moment. It seems that these catapults are not in range here. Now Borg goes for an attack here on this vulnerable position from Schweinepriester. He can get a lot of kills, while at the same time going for another attack on the top here. When you have higher population, it's good to do that because you can target small groups and have good trades on these fights. So for example, he can have a good trade here, he can have a good trade here. And it seems that Schweinepriester is not reacting to here as well. And as you can see, the KG from Borg starts increasing a lot. And it seems that the walls that he made here, they are not close enough for the Katas to be able to reach these forts. Now Borg should be in a dominant position in this match at the current stage. Still good trades for Borg in this location. Not so much good trades in this location here. Borg should be retreating those. And as we see, Borg has already some upgrades, going even for the Cav armor upgrade. Now, as I was mentioning, for Schweinepriester, he has 3 barracks, and 3 barracks is not enough when you go to the late game. You should have, I don't know, at least 5 or ideally 10. And as I was mentioning, he also does not have a defensive position here. So for example, had he had a fort here, he would at least have more passive damage being done to this cavalry. And as I was mentioning as well, now he has an exposed flank coming from here. And Borg is coming with some naked Rams. Schweinepriester does not seem to have a lot of entering at home, but I think, thankfully, to this outpost he saw that the Rams were coming, and he's making 9 spearmen. Now this should be this should be a state which Schweinepriester will not be able to recover from, because this cavalry, they have upgrades, they can go around and ravage Schweinepriester's economy. And meanwhile, Schweinepriester is still camped on his base, and even having idle units here. And losing barracks, which were so important for him to have at the moment. Because right now he has only 2 barracks. Now, Schweinepriester has interim, but they are not really in location. Borg should go straight to the CC. I think he might be afraid. Oh, he has some interim here. Schweinepriester, okay. Yeah, it's GG. Okay, and you see the resign. So, what can we infer from this game? Well, I think that Schweinepriester started well, thanks to some mistakes from Borg as well, like making a lot of infantry and not using those. He was able to stay on par in economy to Borg until mid-game, but the problem is reaching mid-game and late-game, Schweinepriester starting having some economy mistakes, like, for example, having a lot of minerals that he was not using. Thankfully, Borg was having those mistakes too, but when you are in an eco race against goals, you really can't miss a beat. You really need to be up to the task. So, for example, let's see here. In terms of economy score, Schweinepriester had a little bit of a lead in economy because of the distraction. He was able to stay on track until mid-game, like 12 minutes, but as soon as P3 reached, as you can see, Borg started to get much ahead. And also Borg had some really good trades later on. Okay, I think that's it for this game. I'm not sure we'll have a